What's the one thing that disproportionately affects Asian American students that no one is talking about? I'm Dominic, and I'm the youth pastor at Austin Chinese Church. And Lighthouse is the youth ministry at Austin Chinese Church where we desire for students to shine the light of Christ and for students to shine the light of Christ into your spheres of influence. We're doing a series on mental health and self care through November and December because we want to talk about three things right now that are going on in our lives. Why are we doing a series on mental health? Well, through the months of November and December, we want to be talking about mental health and self-care because as Asian Americans, as Christians, and because of COVID and the whole quarantine process, we want to make sure that you're doing all right, and we want to help give you resources and begin thinking and talking with your small group about why mental health is actually important. We talked about mental health in 2018 and we're returning to it because of what's been going on with COVID. You know, I just want to share that a couple months ago, I was really struggling with my own mental health, and I was just really frustrated and just really down. And I was able to get better because I actually I was talking to a friend, and that friend really helped walk with me and point me to Jesus and really encouraged me during that time. So this is why we're going to spend some time in the months of November and December really talking about why mental health is important. I want to introduce Katie and Eric, who are seniors at Lighthouse, and they want to share why talking about mental health is so important. Coming up right now.
Hey Lighthouse, I'm Eric and this is Katie, and we'll be kicking off our mental health series today. So today we'll be giving a presentation on mental health in Asian Americans.
Okay, so the reason we did this presentation is because Asian Americans are more impacted by mental illnesses than other races. And some statistics are that there are 19 million Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the US, and 13 to 15% of them are diagnosed with a mental health condition, which means that 2.9 million Asian Americans have mental health issues nationwide. And some more statistics are that suicide is the leading cause of death for Asian Americans ages 15 to 24, and Asian Americans exhibit more depressive symptoms than other ethnicities. Major depressive episodes increased from 10% to 13.6% in AAPI youth ages 12 to 17.
So aside from the mental health problem that Asian Americans have, they also rarely seek help for their mental health problems. In fact, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are the racial group least likely to seek mental health services, up to 3 times less than their white counterparts. Furthermore, second-generation immigrants are more likely than their parents to receive a mental health diagnosis, suggesting that there might be some issues with acculturation and other things, which I'll get to in the next slide. So what are some of the factors? So these factors are not limited to anything, but some factors include cultural beliefs, shame from Asian communities, denial, lack of awareness, and difficulty accessing mental health care. And so I'll hit each of these points in the coming slides. So what are the cultural factors or beliefs that can affect mental health? So outside of the Asian American community, there is a pervasive belief known as the model minority stereotype. And this is basically the belief that Asian Americans need to be successful and show no weaknesses. Because Asian Americans are generally seen as more intelligent and in a higher income bracket, their life is so and so perfect, and therefore they should have no problems, especially concerning mental health. And so a lot of people expect Asian Americans to show their success and to not show their weaknesses and to not have any issues with mental health since their life is so perfect. Additionally, Asian Americans often discourage emotions because they see emotions as a burden, and especially in such a private community, sharing emotions and mental health issues is usually discouraged. There's also the importance of family, where family obligations are often prioritized over mental health. So one's role in the family and the obligations that they hold in the family often are much more important than their mental health. And as long as they are able to fulfill the family obligations, then their mental health should have no problem. And so that's a belief that can also affect why Asian Americans don't seek help. And finally, mental health issues are just simply seen as taboo in the Asian American community because of like family obligations, because emotions aren't really shared, because we're usually a private people. So many Asian Americans who deal with mental health problems often dismiss and deny their symptoms. So speaking of denial, many Asian Americans often compare their emotions and circumstances to others, and seeing that their emotions or circumstances could be relatively better than others, they tend to dismiss their symptoms. Additionally, they suppress their thoughts and emotions, which uh, can lead to the suppression of symptoms and a belief that um, there isn't an issue with mental health when there actually is. And finally, there's the feeling of just being hopeless, um, where some people believe that their issues are so pervasive and so severe that they can't really overcome them, and therefore they just give up and don't do anything about their mental health issues. There's also a lack of awareness, which simply means that people aren't just aware of the problems that mental health has and aren't aware um, of just mental health. So this is especially important in Asian households in the church. Um, and so this is part of the reason why we're making this lesson, because we feel it's very important to raise awareness about this issue, because awareness fights stigma, and by fighting stigma, we can actually solve this problem. And finally, there's just a difficulty accessing mental health care. Because mental health care is not usually not covered by insurance, it's often expensive and people aren't willing to pay out of pocket to pay for this health care. There's also a lack of psychiatrists and resources. And adding on top of that, many of the resources that are out there are usually general and not targeted towards Asian Americans. So therefore, the resources that are there aren't really effective because they don't take into account the Asian Americans' unique situation. The resources that are there include free clinics and the partnership with prescription assistance, which is basically helping one pay uh, pharmaceutical bills for pills.
And this relates to Christianity because it's important to realize that having hope in God is not enough to cure mental health issues. People still need to seek help with psychiatrists and psychologists and have a social support system with their brothers and sisters in Christ to fight this mental health issue. And it's important to also realize that Christians will struggle in life and that um, having hope in God is not enough to fight that struggle. So some verses that we have about struggles in the Christian life are John 16:33, where it says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So this is basically saying that we will have struggles in the Christian life, but it is important to trust in God still. And James 1:2-4 and 12 says, Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds. For you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Romans 5:3 says that not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance. And Matthew 11:28-30 says, Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light, which is basically saying that we still need to rely on God, even with our mental health struggles. And some discussion questions that we have for you guys are different from middle school and high school. So for middle school, we have you been exposed to the topic of mental health before? What are signs that someone is struggling with mental health issues? Have you met anyone with mental illness? And what are some ways you can learn more about mental health? And then for high school, we have who is the person you go to when you are struggling with mental illness? What stops you from seeking help? What are some ways you can seek help if you are struggling? Have you ever struggled with mental health issues? If not, do you know anyone who has or is struggling with mental illness? And how can you provide support to those you know are dealing with mental health issues? And it's important to realize that your small group is a safe space. So when you're sharing and opening up about your struggles, know that your small group is there for you and supporting you.
So thank you for listening to this presentation. We hope that it was really helpful in introducing this issue and helping you guys learn more about it. And I pray that you guys have a fruitful discussion in your small group. And remember, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to your counselor or you can reach out to Dom.
Thanks so much, Eric and Katie, for sharing about why God cares about our whole health, our mental health included. We've got 3 announcements for you this week.
That from December 31st through January 3rd, we won't be having youth retreat, so make sure you inform your parents that it's canceled and find something else to do.
Our second announcement is about membership voting. If you're a member here at ACEC, we just want to remind you that yes, membership voting will be going on, but if you're under the age of 18, we ask that you not vote, just like in our vote as citizens of this country. We ask that you be 18 in order that you have enough life experience to be able to give a strong and informed vote to what's on our ballot. Our third announcement is that we will not be meeting over Thanksgiving weekend, so that's November 27th and 29th. We hope you have a wonderful time with your families. Thank you so much again to Eric and Katie for leading our lesson and introducing our topic on mental health and self-care. We hope that in your small group you'll be able to recognize why talking about mental health is so important and why God cares for our entire health. We'll see you next week.